So I was asked to do this by BlondeTuber. Well, I mean, asked is one way of saying it. He really just made a comment, and I said if that comment gets a certain amount of likes, then I would do the video. And then you guys came in hindsight, asking for 20 likes when I have over 1,000 subscribers on the I have a 1,000 subscribers video. Was probably not the best idea. I'll increase that number for the future, but even if 20 of you, even if one of you, which he did, wanted to see it, I still would like to do the video on it. And by all means, if you guys want me to talk about something, just tell me. And the reason I asked for that was because I wanted to make sure an interest was there. And it definitely is. So, let's talk about power levels. Now, I asked him what he meant by power levels, and he was mainly talking about the canon gains from Rebirth 2 to Mega Dimension. So, let's talk about that. Rebirth 2. Now that is actually one of the main problems I had with Rebirth 2's ending. Particularly why I preferred the Conquest ending. So we know that R4 in Rebirth 2 created the 4 felons as a mere piece of her, right? Yet Magic was strangely stronger than the other 3. Magic defeated Solo, Neptune Noir, Blondvert, and Nepgear. Which to me, that's like, you do that, and wow. But later on, Nepgear comes back with Unirom and all of the human characters. What happens then? Magic defeats them. It takes the 4 CPUs, the 4 CPU candidates, and all the human characters to take out Magic, and Magic was a fraction of R4's power. Now, then you fast forward to the deity of sin herself, and they have no trouble with her. And on the true ending, I mean, the only part they had was defeating her for good. And for that, they needed good feelings. It's like, come on now. She created them when she was much weaker, the 4 felons, and now they beat her easily? Like, are you serious? That just didn't sit right with me. I was like, oh, the final, like, they needed, I know it's an RPG kind of game, but, you know, a strategy or something would have been pretty nice to have, considering Magic, a piece of them. Magic seemed more threatening than the deity of sin. So that power scaling is actually what made me not like the true ending of Rebirth 2 as much. And why I like the Holy Sword ending and the Conquest ending, because they could not beat her. It's not they just couldn't beat her with conventional means, it's that they couldn't beat her. They needed a powerful weapon in order to do so. So that's the first thing, alright? Then let's move on to Rebirth 3. Now I will say, BlondeTuber, that when we have multiple games, there's always an excuse, like a literal excuse. Like in Rebirth 3/Victory, it's actually stated that Nepgear was not stated, it was in the game, Nepgear was a higher level than Neptune, and that's because Neptune just plays the round. The power levels, one thing I will say for the CPU's power levels is that they can just, you know, get weaker, especially in Neptune's case, you know, especially in a time of peace as well. I mean, and the real reason Nepgear even was level 10 was because she had been moving around and things like that. And, you know, they also have reasons of why well, at least for Rebirth 3. Let's just stick for Rebirth 3. So, automatically Neptune was not as strong as she once was. But now we come to what he was really talking about. There was an R4 in Rebirth 3. Now, I don't think it's fair to compare the R4 in Rebirth 3 to the one in Rebirth 2. They are different. If I had to compare the Ultra Dimension Noir to the Hyper Dimension Noir, I think the Hyper Dimension Noir would be much more powerful because she's just more experienced. The Ultra Dimension Noir, well, I say that, but then Ultra Dimension Noir we know is at least, what, like 20 years or so? Because there were several time gaps. Time flew much more differently in the Ultra Dimension than it did in the Hyper Dimension. what, like 3 minutes was 10 years or something like that. It was something along those lines. I'll have to double check. But anywho, so I can't say for a certain, but I at least think that in the beginning, Ultra Dimension Noir, when she was first born, was definitely weaker than Hyper Dimension Noir. And I pretty sure, based on what Kurome said, that the Hyper Dimension R4 at least fought Kurome. And we also know from Mina, I was about to say Financier, we know from Mina that they were R4 was originated in Louis. So that gives, I'm telling you guys, R4, they mentioned so much about her in the background. I feel like something big is gonna happen in the future. All right, not like the Deity of Sin wasn't big, but still, there's so much mystery still surrounding her origin. Nothing concrete like what we have for Rei, which we're gonna get to Rei. But my point is that just because she has the same forms, I don't think that we can say that she is the same power level. So there, I mean, if you look at it that way, because she is from a different dimension, you know, dimensions can have whole different laws, like how they work. For example, how a CPU is born. Neptune and Nepgear needed a CPU memory in order to even transform. They couldn't, you know, they couldn't just transform like normal. So, but yeah, so looking at that, I would say that R4 was without a doubt weaker than the Deity of Sin. Because, I mean, we do have, like, if we compare R4 and Rei was able to make minions of her own. This R4 never displayed that ability. So, yeah, definitely Ultra Dimension Noir, Ultra Dimension R4 is weaker than Hyper Dimension R4. The others in the Seven Sages, they were, you know, R4 was probably the second most powerful out of them all. Well, I mean, copy paste that I won't say that. She's pretty powerful though. But she was one of the Seven Sages. She still was never the leader, you know. So now let's talk about the leader, Rei, and rather how she got defeated. So, the original Rei was powerful, yes, but see, here's what I'm thinking about Rei. Even though she was powerful, there's a show I'm watching where this character has the ability to basically warp reality under certain conditions. Basically, they have to use words. If their opponent doesn't speak to them at all, they lose. Or like My Hero Academia, there was a character there who he can make you do what he wants, mind control you basically, but he also had to use words. With Rei, it's nothing like that, but who's to say that just because Rei has some powerful abilities, that means that her combat experience is powerful, or that, you know, her other abilities, which we can't see besides, Rei could have really used like all she has is a staff. She doesn't even have wings or anything, at least in the game, but you know, she has some powerful abilities, but it doesn't mean that she was unbeatable. I would say she is more powerful than the Deity of Sin R4, definitely, because she has power that can cross dimensions. She was trying to destroy the hyperdimension strictly from her own power. So, yes, I would definitely say that Rei is up there. But I'm also considering, I don't know how strong Plutia and Pishi are. Plutia's strength, now I will say Plutia is said to be, you know, her power is said to be scary and that people don't want to face her. I feel like it's more the sense that if you lost to Plutia, that you don't want to lose because then she tortures you. It's like, you know, you may be equal strength to somebody, but you know that if you beat them, nothing will happen to them. If they beat you, you might suffer a fate worse than death. I think it's like that kind of thing. Plus, it's like, why would you even... Because Plutia has been stopped. Neptune has stood up to Plutia many times in the game as well. And Pishi beat all of them, including Plutia, when she was souped up, when she was powered up. And which brings me to Pishi. We don't know how strong she is. even without the machine, a non-adept knows how good Pishi's instincts are. That alone speaks to her battle prowess, I think. At least in my opinion. I feel like Pishi is a natural born fighter. Like if she was allowed to grow, like her human form was allowed to grow, she would have been incredibly powerful. I mean, she already hurt Neptune, which, I mean, I know it's like comedic and everything, but I think it was also to display how powerful she was. And I may be biased because in the anime she was some sort of like there was a reason they wanted her, so she was, you know, actually that powerful. But anyways, I don't know how powerful Plutia and Pishi are, and they, along with the Ultra Dimension, Noir, Blind, Invert, Neptune, Nepgear, Uni, Ram, and Ram, they all had fought Ray, and that's a lot of CPU power. So I mean, I can't say, I mean, it's not like they lost to Ray in the past. That's the thing. They beat their copies that Ray made of them, and they also beat not only one Ray, but two Rays. And then they took care of the power afterwards. So, but moving on to the last one, Mega Dimension. And I'm still going to rank this, what I think, how strong the CPUs are. But Mega Dimension. Well, to sum this up, the R4 that was created, it was one from a memory. And I would think that even if it's an R4 from a memory, you still wouldn't want her to... I do think it's the image, it's the same image of the R4 that was trying to ruin game industry, but that R4 had been taking in negative energy for a long time and all this stuff, and it wasn't a product of Kurome's imagination. So I will say that for the R4s across the games, I do think there is a reason why they're not all the same power level. They are different. But I'm going to let's rank the CPUs, because like we already know. So the next forms became a thing in Mega Dimension, and we also have the big bad and her counterpart, Uzume and Kurome. Really, I think the only thing you guys are wondering is who I think is more powerful out of Rei and Kurome. It's gotta be Kurome. And here's the reason why. I just finished explaining to you guys how like the CPUs they were able to defeat some people and other people. Like for R4 of the Hyper Dimension, they defeated Magic, but only after so many people came and worked together, and yet they were able to defeat DD of Sen easily. That, you know, it's that kind of mentality. With Kurome, they literally could not touch her without Uzume's help. And what Uzume does is she creates a sharing field, which is a dimension in itself that uses share energy as a medium that allows them to fight the dark CPUs, which are a part of Kurome. In addition, Kurome creates her own dimensions. I always think, or in other philosophy, that it takes more energy to create than it does to destroy, right? And so since we know Rei can destroy dimensions, but it's never stated that she can create one. Kurome did. So just with those two factors alone, the fact that you need essentially another Kurome to hurt Kurome, because she's too powerful, or at least her constructions are too powerful for even the next form CPUs to go against. Now that may be because Kurome took their power, but still, the fact remains, the next forms would have been able to defeat Rei, and they still had trouble with Kurome. So with that, I'm gonna say Kurome is unbeatable, because without her, like Uzume and Kurome, all right, the person known as Orange Heart. I always have so much trouble with explaining this. Uzume is at the top. Okay, you may say I'm completely biased, but I explain my logic, all right? You can take it or you can leave it. We can discuss it in the comments. After that, definitely has to be Rey, and then I would say the Deity of Sin, R4, because she went down way too easily for my taste. So, and plus, she doesn't have the power to destroy dimensions, at least not that we know of. Maybe if she got more powerful, she would have. And then after that, I'd have the next forms, because, I mean, they're the next forms. And then after that, it's debatable. Because I don't know, for example, the Ultra Dimension, they have a lot more experience, but they also spend a lot of time losing to the same opponent, Pishi. And it gets complicated from there. But basically, those are my thoughts about the power levels. Hopefully I answered everything. This is a little bit of a weird video because it's more like me trying to tell everything that I think to answer a question instead of me having a certain agenda. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Post them down in the comments below, and I will see you all next time.